Tensions between India and Pakistan remain high after recent conflict in Kashmir. The former president of Pakistan, Pervez Musharraf, joins us to share his thoughts on the issue. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu, and this is The Heat. Pakistan and India have fought 3 wars since winning independence from Britain almost 70 years ago. 2 of those wars were fought over Kashmir. Both claim the region but control only parts of it. And Kashmir's de facto border or line of control is one of the most militarized frontiers in the world. Protests and exchanges in the disputed area are up in the worst violence seen there in years, escalating tensions between Pakistan and India. And there are concerns now that the situation could get worse between the nuclear-armed neighbors. I sat down this week with the former president of Pakistan, Pervez Musharraf, who had some strong opinions on the current conflict. General Musharraf, thanks for joining us. Let's start with these recent exchanges between India and Pakistan along the Kashmir border. What do you make of this flare-up?
No, that's bad. I think it has increased tension, and the possibilities of further aggravation of the problem is there. Very dangerous.
India has blamed Pakistan for an attack on one of its army bases inside Indian-controlled Kashmir. The Indians also say that they've conducted what they call surgical strikes against Pakistani militants based inside Pakistani-controlled Kashmir. The Pakistanis have denied this. You have said that you would retaliate. The term that you used was counter-threaten. What did you mean by that? Could you elaborate?
Certainly. I mean, whenever India, the problem is India thinks that this kind of operation, the surgical strike against Pakistan, will end right there. I've been telling them that military operations, whenever you plan military operation, you should think it to the end. Obviously, Pakistan cannot be treated like Bhutan. We'll strike back. So we are going to hit back. Then what do? Are you going to escalate? Then we will also escalate. And we'll end up in a war-like situation. So this is very dangerous. But when you talk about Uri, yes, indeed, Uri attack took place. Now to blame Pakistan, which means Pakistan government or Pakistan army, for having done that, is absolutely fallacious. This is absolutely wrong. And that is what they do always. India always does this. These are non-state actors. You should look at the cause. Why has this happened? And maybe more Uris will happen. Will every time you are going to do this? More Uris will happen because you killed a freedom fighter by the name of Burhan Wani in Srinagar, and hundreds of thousands of people came out into the streets. You fired at them. You killed 80 of them and injured more than 1,000. This is the result. Then these non-state actors who are also in Pakistan, they are prepared to risk their lives and go and fight for the Kashmiris and attack the Indian army. So you can't blame the Indian Pakistan government and the army. So this is the problem, and they create such hysteria that they get trapped themselves in it. Because then the Indian public starts demanding from the military to punish, and the government to punish Pakistan. Now, how can you punish Pakistan? This is a very childish statement. You can't punish Pakistan. Pakistan is too big. Our military is too strong. You should never have the wrong notion that you can punish Pakistan.
You say these are non-state actors, but the Indians make the point that they are based inside Pakistani-controlled Kashmir, and in many instances are given sanctuary in Pakistan.
Well, I say they are non-state actors. This activity, these non-state actors came into being after 1990, when the people of Kashmir, in the valley especially, rose against the military, Indian military, and they killed a number of them. Therefore, there was an uprising in Kashmir. They came into Pakistan. Now, over these 20 years, more than, about 16 years, the situation in Kashmir has changed. Now the people of Pakistan, there are many organizations which sprung up. People volunteering to go into Kashmir. Now, Kashmir is a disputed territory. India must realize that this is not their territory. It is India which is on the wrong side. This is a disputed territory recognized by the United Nations through a resolution in 1948. So therefore, anyone who's fighting the army is really on the right side. It is the army which is denying the rights of the people, even recognized by United Nations. They are on the wrong side. They are doing the wrong. They are doing the killings. So I think, unfortunately, India goes around in the United Nations misleading everyone. This is totally the situation which India must realize.
If, as you say, this is a disputed territory, how is that dispute going to be resolved?
It has to be resolved. We have to find a way. Well, I can very proudly say that during my tenure of about 9 years, we did I proposed a 4-point agenda as a roadmap towards resolution of this Kashmir dispute. It meant graduated demilitarization from the line of control and from the cities and towns of Kashmir, giving them maximum self-governance, and then making the line of control irrelevant by opening 6 crossing sites, which geographically is possible, and allowing the free flow of men and material on both sides. This was my agenda. Now, we were moving forward on these 4 parameters with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. I was moving forward. We were drafting a resolution. So we can move forward if there is a will on both sides, not on one side.
But when we look at, well, let's say the recent flare-up that took place, here are 2 countries, Pakistan and India, that have fought 3 wars. You are nuclear-armed countries, both of you. How great are the risks that this could escalate again to an all-out war?
Well, the risk is, one should ask India. They are responsible for it. They are the ones who have created this hysteria. They are the ones who are denying the rights of the Kashmiri people. They are the ones who are killing them. They are killing, as I said, 80 people and injured 1,000. The world must see this, what this Indian army is doing. Look at their brutalities on the television. It's all on the television. It's shown on the television. So India has to be stopped from this following a path which can lead to war at a nuclear flashpoint.
Right, a war between 2 nuclear-armed powers. I mean, how important is the nuclear deterrent right now?
It is very important for Pakistan. Pakistan has an existential threat from a country which is 6 times its size and from a military which is about 3-4 times its size. We have an existential threat. Therefore, it is our right to have a deterrent capability. And we are proud of the fact, and the whole nation is proud of the fact, that we are a nuclear and missile state which deters our erstwhile enemy from undergoing through any adventurism against us.
The rhetoric has got very heated again, as we've been hearing right now. What can be done right now to de-escalate tensions? What can Pakistan do?
Well, Pakistan, it is India. You should ask this question from India. India has to do something because they started it, they must stop. If Pakistan was to do something to de-escalate, all the negative connotations will be inferred to it. That they have succumbed, they have got scared, they have run away. That is not welcome in the Pakistan military and the Pakistan public psyche also. It cannot be done. So therefore, it is India who started something initially. They must withdraw. Now their problem is they created such a hysteria, and they created this hysteria in the public which started demanding action against Pakistan, punishing Pakistan, that they are stuck. And therefore they are cooking up all these stories of their surgical strikes to pacify the public. This is the best way of doing it. Now you do something to pacify the public. They are bluffing them. Well, let them carry on as long as the situation gets diffused.
But can Pakistan take the initiative? Can Pakistan make some kind of gesture, some act of goodwill to de-escalate tensions?
I don't think so, frankly. I don't think so. Because we cannot demoralize our army and demoralize our public. Because India has started something, and India is saying that they are going to punish Pakistan. Now we succumbing and trying to de-escalate from our side is certainly Well, it may be ideas of some intellectuals, all right, but when you go to the public in the streets and the military, the soldier in uniform, he will hate this. He will hate it.
The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to office on a promise of getting very tough with Pakistan. That was rhetoric. Look what's happened while he's been in office. He's traveled to Pakistan. He's met with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Can these two men get together and come up with a diplomatic solution?
Well, I must say Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, whatever he does, when you say that he came to Pakistan, he met our Prime Minister, hugged him, came on his birthday, these are cosmetics. On one side he's doing this, on the other side he's talking of aggression. Look at what he's talking. He comes and visits Pakistan, but he talks absolute aggression. Goes abroad, look at what he said in United Nations. Look at what he said when he came from Afghanistan. All aggression against Pakistan.
So fair to say then that there's a serious lack of trust between these two leaders, between these two countries?
Well, the trust between the leaders, there was trust. I must say our Prime Minister was very positively inclined towards Mr. Narendra Modi. He's been meeting him, he has been very calm, very friendly with him. But the reality on ground, since Prime Minister Modi is the one who's creating the trouble and tensions, whatever has happened, now even our Prime Minister is forced to speak against India, forced to speak against the Indian military. So the tensions have started.
Would Pakistan be open to external involvement to settle this dispute, perhaps the involvement of the United Nations?
Well, certainly, Pakistan has always been in favor of United Nations implementing the their own resolution. It is India which has always denied. It is India which coined the term bilateralism. This was in the early 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. They said that this is a bilateral issue and everyone should keep out, including United Nations. But when you made it bilateral, whenever Pakistan went to discuss the issue, they wouldn't discuss it. So they have been very clever. They have always been very bossy, very dominating, trying to be dominating, trying to impose their will on Pakistan. That is what they do. So what bilateralism when we are not even prepared to come and talk about the subject? Pakistan certainly has always been in favor of United Nations, or any, for that matter, United States should play a role in resolution of disputes.
What about a role for China? Here we have a regional power, a world power. China has called for restraint and says that this is a dispute that can be settled through dialogue and consultation.
Well, Pakistan would certainly welcome it. And China looks like having, futuristically, China is heading towards being one of the superpowers in the world, becoming a multi-polar society. I think China is one of the superpowers of the future. So Pakistan would like them to play a role. But I wonder whether India would accept that role from China.
Is it time perhaps to look for another way to settle this dispute? Some commentators have suggested that there be better economic relations between India and Pakistan, and that if there are better relations, economic relations between these two countries, there'd be less of an inclination for these two countries to fight with each other.
Well, there is hypocrisy there also from the Indian side. No, sir, this is not possible. When the anger that we have, the hate that we have for each other because of the disputes, you will be putting the cart before the horse. That we have what trade relations, economic relations, when we hate each other. That is not possible. We must resolve disputes, remove the causes of hatred, remove the causes of tension, and then go ahead with any kind of trade and economic relations.
Do you feel that there's anything you could have done while you were the leader of Pakistan that could have resulted in a settlement?
Well, as I said, there are 3 disputes. Not only Kashmir, there is Siachen and Sir Creek also. We did a lot towards resolving those disputes in my time. We carried out a joint survey of the disputed Sir Creek area, extending into the EEZ, as they say, exclusive economic zone, joint survey by the two navies, Pakistan and India, and we demarcated the disputed area. Then on Siachen, we again agreed on the withdrawal lines beyond which each side would go from Siachen. We did a lot. And then on Kashmir, as I said, we were going on this 4-point program that I gave. So we were moving forward.
General Musharraf, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to take a break right now. Much more coming up right after that. Stay with us. You're watching The Heat. Welcome back to The Heat. We're talking about current tensions between neighbors Pakistan and India following recent conflict in Kashmir. Joining me now here in the studio is Aparna Pandey. She is a research fellow at the Hudson Institute, and she is the director of the Initiative on the Future of India and South Asia. Joining us from London is Farooq Bajwa. He is a lawyer and author and a specialist on the history of Pakistan. Welcome to both of you to the show. Aparna, if we look at that interview with General Pervez Musharraf, the former Pakistani military leader, he is very critical of India, saying, and he said that several times, that it's incumbent on India to resolve this dispute over Kashmir. And we see tensions arising again as we see reports coming out of the region. How can this situation be de-escalated right now?
Anand, we've seen this actually happen a number of times in the past. It's not new. India and Pakistan start talks, a terror attack takes place, the talks are cancelled, the two countries don't talk to each other. In 2001, 2002, they were, both countries put the army on the border, de-escalation took place. This time round, things have come to this point mainly because of domestic reasons also. Prime Minister Modi needs to demonstrate that after 2 years of following a policy in which he tried to extend a hand to Prime Minister Sharif. He invited him in May 2014 to his inauguration. He actually went to Lahore in December 2015. So after following 2 years of a policy, after Pathankot attack in January 2016, a Pakistani investigation team was asked to come to the Indian base and actually conduct an investigation. So he has followed a policy of extending a hand. He does not see reciprocity from the Pakistani side. So for his domestic political reasons, he has to, this time round, demonstrate that he's taking a stronger stance.
So we have been here before, as you point out, but is there any reason to believe that this time it's different?
It's different mainly because of some of the rhetoric coming out. One, India for the first time has said that it may revoke or attempt to revoke the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty. There's also talk of India revoking the most favored nation, MFN status given to Pakistan. India is also playing in a different global environment, and so is Pakistan. And Pakistan has been reluctant to actually understand how isolated Pakistan is internationally. Prime Minister Sharif was the only leader to mention Kashmir in United Nations. The UN Security Council has not taken up the India-Pakistan tensions or the Kashmir dispute since 1957. No other country in the world, including China, has come out on Pakistan's side. All countries are saying, please talk, and there should be no terror attacks.
Right, although China has said that it wants to see some kind of consultation, some kind of negotiation taking place.
But sort of what they normally say.
Right, let me go to Farooq in London. Farooq, the Indians have accused Pakistan of harboring and in some instances giving material support, arming terrorist groups which have been attacking India. We heard General Musharraf say in that interview that yes, the militants did attack an Indian army base inside Indian-controlled Kashmir. Doesn't India have a right to protect its sovereignty, to counter these terrorist threats, to respond in some way?
Well, you mentioned the point of sovereignty. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Kashmir is still disputed territory. It's still a live UN issue. It's never been resolved officially. And for India to always blame Pakistan for every attack which goes on is, I think, a little bit disingenuous. India has always seen the Kashmir Valley and the Kashmir issue, ideally as one trying to resolve Pakistan would see it almost as bullying Pakistan bilaterally rather than having it dealt with multilaterally or through any sort of international dispute resolution. In addition to that, it's always seen the Kashmir issue rather as a security issue rather than an international one which needs to be resolved through dialogue. And so its response domestically, and not all the attacks and not all the violence in Kashmir can be blamed on Pakistan. The fact of the matter is the Kashmir Valley has periodically risen up against India, is doing so again, and the Indians are following an old rhetoric of just simply blaming Pakistan. True, Pakistan may have a small share of blame, but Pakistan is not responsible for the state of the Kashmir Valley security currently.
Pardon?
Yeah, just two things. One, India does believe it's bilateral, and the two countries actually signed an agreement in 1972, the Shimla Agreement, that they would resolve the issue bilaterally. And this was reiterated in 1999, the Lahore Agreement between then Prime Minister Vajpayee and current Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. And both times, civilian prime ministers agreed that it's a bilateral issue to be resolved bilaterally. So Pakistan has signed two agreements on resolving the issue bilaterally.
But with respect to that point, sorry to interrupt, I mean, it is incumbent then on India to actually offer something bilaterally. It always makes the right noises, but actually doesn't make any movement bilaterally. So it's just seen as a tactic by Pakistan, that they always say we'll talk bilaterally, but actually don't carry out any talks.
In response, one could actually say that, Pakistan has repeatedly denied that it actually uses terror and it's not taken action against any of the jihadi groups that attack its neighbors. Pakistan's Zarb-e-Azb takes actions against those militants which attack the Pakistani state, not those that attack India or Afghanistan. So India does have the right to say that if you don't take action against groups that attack India, for example, 2008, the Mumbai terror attacks, it's been 8 years. What has happened to those militants?
But Aparna, what needs to happen right now to de-escalate these tensions?
I think both countries need to reduce the rhetoric, lower the rhetoric. I mean, the Pakistani defense minister saying that Pakistan can use nuclear weapons against India is not good. Similarly, India should not say that it will revoke the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty, because that's an international agreement, and India has never revoked it. So I think both sides need to reduce the rhetoric.
Right. While talking to General Musharraf, he brought up the point that he did submit a 4-point plan when he was the leader of Pakistan. And among those 4 points, withdrawal of troops, no change to borders, self-governance, and a supervisory role for both India and Pakistan. Even some Indian politicians thought that's a really good plan. What happened to it?
Well, like many plans, many good plans, the problem at the end of the day is that, I mean, he was not able to convince his institution, primarily, from which he came, that this is a plan which they should give full support to. If he wasn't able to sort of convince his own institution, then how will it go beyond that? What I'm trying to say is that the Pakistan army has never accepted any plan that would actually help resolve Kashmir, where some part of Kashmir stays with India. There's a maximalist position. All of Kashmir, quote unquote, whether it's Ladakh or the part which India has, or the part in which India has, belongs to Pakistan. And Musharraf's plan was good, but it would have been good only if he could have actually seen it through.
But wouldn't this plan have given Kashmir some kind of autonomous status, semi-autonomous status?
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
But there's something which the Pakistanis would have to do. The Indian side has proposed similar things right from, I mean, in 1962-63, there were talks between India and Pakistan. India offered actually at that time to give some territory to Pakistan. Pakistan did not accept that. It wanted all of Kashmir.
Okay.
You need a discussion.
Right, need a discussion, quite right. Farooq, moving ahead, what are the diplomatic options on the table right now?
Well, the diplomatic options are limited, and I'm sorry to go back to one point that was mentioned earlier regarding Musharraf and the 4-point plan. Now, the 4-point plan may not have been perfect, but it was quite a bold diplomatic initiative. I mean, Pakistan was in effect giving up its demand for a plebiscite. It was agreeing not to use military violence. It was agreeing to demilitarize. We haven't heard an equivalent plan coming out of India ever for the last 10, 20 years. Ever since the so-called Shimla Agreement, there's been no bold diplomatic move that anyone's aware of from the Indian side to say, look, but I don't want to score points here. This isn't an India-Pakistan issue. The people of Kashmir are dying daily. There are people being blinded daily. There are people being maimed daily. There are people living under curfew. It's a terrible situation for the people of Kashmir, and both India and Pakistan, to some extent, share a share of that responsibility for that. Moving forward to the diplomatic issue, I think it is more incumbent on India because India is in control of 2/3 of Kashmir and Jammu. So if there is to be a diplomatic move, whatever Pakistan proposes, if India doesn't agree or puts down unreasonable conditions, it's not going to move anywhere. So I do think we need to hear from the Indians a de-escalation and from the Pakistan army. We need perhaps the United Nations to take notice. I mean, it's true what was said earlier, that the United Nations is not taking notice of this, and that's a shame, because this is officially still a UN dispute. There are still UN peacekeepers on both sides of the border. It is an issue which the United Nations, I think, should take more seriously. If that's not possible, then I think India and Pakistan need to sit down, whether it's through back channels or officially, and say, look, we have to try to resolve this. This is coming up to almost 70 years next year, and this can't go on for another 70 years like this.
All right, Aparna, India not moving, is that a fair comment?
India has repeatedly said it will discuss Kashmir, but it also wants a discussion of terrorism. Because terrorism is part of this equation. Terrorism cannot be removed, it cannot be separated from this. Secondly,
I mean, with respect,
India
India's been making excuses.
Sorry?
Of course.
Yeah, can I please continue?
Okay, I'll get back to you in a moment, Farooq. Yeah.
Yeah, and second thing is the UN has not discussed Kashmir, but then it's a different world today also. You can't expect the UN to sort of to participate in this when when both countries do not agree on what the issue is or what the problem is. Finally, my belief is that Kashmir is a symptom of the problem. The bigger problem is and has been for 70 years that the two sides do not trust each other's intentions. And unless you trust, you can't move forward. China and India have a border dispute.
If there's so much distrust between the two sides, isn't it time for a third party to come into it?
No, I don't. But I mean, look at China and India.
Yeah.
China and India have a border dispute, but China is one of India's largest bilateral partners. There was no third party involved when China and India decided that we will discuss the border issue, have an arrangement for that, but we will continue to trade. And continue to have a normal relationship.
Okay.
Why can't India, Pakistan do that?
Okay, I'm going to get to Farooq. We are rapidly running out of time. Farooq, go ahead.
On the first issue that was raised about India only moving if terrorism were resolved, I mean, going right back to the early dispute, Nehru promised a plebiscite and used the excuse of US arms to Pakistan to pull out of the plebiscite. Now it seems to be an excuse of terrorism. The low-level violence will not stop between India and Pakistan, and if India is going to use an excuse of saying, stop terrorism, otherwise we won't talk to you on Kashmir, nothing will ever happen. So that's only an excuse, I'm afraid. It's never going to be resolved with unreasonable disputes. It's almost what Israel says to the Palestinians.
Okay.
Moving on to the next issue, bilaterally, it's true that India and China trade, but that's simply because China's so much bigger and more powerful than India that India has no choice but to trade with China. With its smaller neighbors, whether it's Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, I'm afraid India has historically taken a slightly bullying position, hasn't been reasonable in all its bilateral talks, and hasn't shown the same degree of flexibility it shows when it's frankly out-muscled.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks to both of you for joining us. That's it for this edition of The Heat. We'd love to hear from you, so please send us your questions, comments, and story ideas to theheat@cctv-america.com. And we'd like to continue the conversation on social media. Give us your thoughts and comments on our Facebook page. You'll find that at CCTV America. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C. Thanks for being with us.